Hello, welcome to this video for applicants to the Farming Transformation Fund Improving Farm Productivity Grant. This is for applicants who have completed the online checker and been invited to submit a full application. We will talk you through the information you need to include in your application and give you extra help and tips for putting together a good quality full application. You may find it helpful to have the application forms in front of you to refer to while you watch. The Farming Transformation Fund Improving Farm Productivity Grant is for capital items that will improve farm productivity through improving the environment, introducing innovation. This could be through projects that improve the efficiency and effectiveness of agricultural or horticultural production, reduce environmental impact resulting in a positive contribution to net zero and greenhouse gas reduction, improve nutrient and resource management that supports optimization of field and livestock operations. The grant is available to farmers and horticulturalists or contractors that are registered in England. The minimum grant size is £35,000 and the maximum grant size is £500,000. You can request a grant of up to 40% of the eligible project costs. This is a capital grant scheme for the purchase of robotic or autonomous equipment and systems to aid crop and livestock production or equipment for slurry acidification. The specific criteria for equipment to be considered robotic or autonomous is detailed in the manual on gov.uk. There is also a list of eligible and ineligible items. Once you're invited to make a full application, we find that it will usually take 2 to 3 months to apply for planning permission, if needed, and collect quotes for your items. Please refer to your invitation to submit a full application email for the deadline date for submission of your completed full application forms and supporting documents to RPA. We aim to give you a decision on your complete and valid full application within 60 working days. If your project is approved, we will send you a grant funding agreement, GFA, to sign and information about your next steps. Once you've signed your grant funding agreement, you can start the project. You should aim to complete your project and submit your final grant claim within 18 months of the project start date. There are some important documents you need to read and fill in before you send us your application, so it's important that you read the guidance carefully. We suggest that you read the Farming Transformation Fund Improving Farm Productivity Grant Manual again. You can find this on gov.uk by searching for Farming Transformation Fund. This explains the aims and priorities of the grant. You should also read the email we sent inviting you to make a full application. It includes helpful advice, information and contact details if you have any queries. We've sent you the 2 forms you need to complete by email. The first is the Word document application form. This gives us an overview of your project as well as details about you and your business. The Excel spreadsheet application appendix provides specific details of your project activity, costs, timeline and outputs. Before you start filling in your application, you should also read the How to Apply for an Improving Farm Productivity Grant Manual available on gov.uk. It explains how to fill in both forms question by question and the supporting information you need to submit. Remember that the full application stage is competitive. Although your initial application has scored highly enough to reach this stage, it does not mean that your full application will be approved. Make sure that you allow yourself enough time to prepare and write your full application, as this can take time. It is very important that you don't start work, incur costs, including paying deposits, enter into any legal contracts, or place an order before the project start date in your grant funding agreement. This will make your application ineligible. At full application, we check your eligibility as the applicant and the things you want to do and apply for a grant for. We also check the costs you include in your application are eligible and the quotes you provide meet the grant scheme requirements. We will also assess and score how well your project fits with the Improving Farm Productivity grant priorities. This could include introducing innovative technology, reducing ammonia emissions from slurry, helping increase productivity. We will look at the financial impact and viability of the project on your whole business, delivery from when you start the project until it is completed and you have submitted the final claim. You'll need to tell us about the project management team, their skills and experience, whether they are people within the existing business or whether you will need support from outside your business. Risks to the project and their mitigation. What might go wrong or not to plan, how likely it is to happen, and what you can do to reduce both the likelihood and impact of it happening. Risks may include changes to the project team, having the right skills and experience to complete and operate the project, or changes in costs and the funding for the project. As well as the full application form and application appendix, we ask you to send us information to support what you have said in your application. It's important that you look at what supporting documents you need at an early stage, as it might take you a lot of time to gather the documents together. There's a checklist at the back of the application form which lists what you need to send with your application. There's also information in the How to Apply for an Improving Farm Productivity Grant Manual. To start with, you need to submit business accounts. We need 3 consecutive years trading accounts for your business so we can understand how it operates and functions. We want full accounts, that is, profit and loss account pages, balance sheet, title, and all notes pages. If your business has not been operating for 3 years, send us the accounts that you have available. If you don't have accounts showing at least 12 months trading, we will need a statement from your accountant showing the likely income and operating expenses. Your latest tax returns or management accounts could help to support your application. There's more information in the How to Apply for an Improving Farm Productivity Grant Manual. You will also need to submit accounts for any linked businesses. Please check the guidance to see if this applies to your business. If your business is part of a group of companies, a parent or subsidiary, please also submit the consolidated group accounts. Permissions and licenses. You must provide a copy of your full planning permission approval document to support your application by the deadline in your invitation to submit a full application email. We cannot process your application or make a grant offer without it. This can take time, and if you have not received a decision on your planning application before the application submission deadline, you will need to submit evidence from the local planning authority that you have applied. You should read the guidance for full details of what information you need to submit with your full application. If you are a tenant, you should have at least 5 years remaining on your tenancy agreement with the landowner so that you have the minimum period to carry out the project. You need to submit sections of your tenancy agreement which shows the property address, tenant, landlord, signatures, and the tenancy term. Financial information. We need to understand how the project is being funded and that you have sufficient funds to undertake the project. We need to see your evidence of match funding so you can show us that if we prove the grant, you can go ahead with the project. VAT registered applicants should not include VAT in their grant application. If you want to include VAT in your grant application, you need to provide evidence from an independent accountant that you are not VAT registered. If you include second-hand equipment, you will need to provide evidence from the supplier that the items have not been purchased with public funding previously. It should also confirm that the equipment is fit for purpose, it meets current health and safety requirements, it has at least 5 years of useful life remaining. If you are working with other businesses, you need to provide letters of support from them. The details of the requirements are explained in the How to Apply for an Improving Farm Productivity Grant Manual on gov.uk. You need to provide quotes that meet the requirements explained in the guidance for each of the items you are seeking grant funding for. We won't be able to assess your application if we don't have all the information. Items less than £5,000 need only one quote, tender or catalogue listing. Items which cost £5,000 or more need 3 like-for-like quotes, tenders or catalogue listings. The businesses that provide you with quotes must be independent of each other and your business, and the quotes must be sourced independently. That means you cannot arrange for a supplier providing a quote to get other quotes on your behalf. The quotes must be valid and no more than 9 months old. Each quote must include the name and address of the applicant business and the supplier's business name, address including postcode and contact details. A quote can include more than one item, but all quotes must include a detailed and itemised breakdown of the costs. This is so we can understand what you intend to buy with the grant and compare the cost of items between the quotes you submit. Each of the quotes must be comparable. For example, for the same specification, the same quantity, size, capacity, and number of units. If you are using a catalogue listing, you need to provide a copy of the page you are taking the information from, including the name of the company, date, page number or web page, item description, and price. It's important that you submit all the information and supporting documents we need, or we won't be able to assess your application. Details are in the How to Apply for an Improving Farm Productivity Grant Manual on gov.uk. Please answer all the questions on the forms. Each question is different and asked for a particular reason, so please don't answer the questions in the form with "Please see the answer above." You should provide an answer to each question, but if you think a question does not apply to you, please explain why. If you have any queries about the form or guidance, please raise them with your project sponsor. However, they can't complete the forms for you or check through draft versions of your application. When you fill in your application form, please be as clear as you can about your project and realistic about what it will achieve. We only know what you tell us in the application form, so you should explain your proposal and project to us as clearly as possible. Once you have filled in the forms, you might find it helpful to ask someone not involved in the project to read through them for you. This will highlight any parts of the form that need a clearer explanation or more detail. The project details should be the same as the project outline you entered in the online application. Although minor details may change, for example, your project costs might change as you collect your quotes, the main details of your project should remain the same. You should build on your online application to write your full application. Use the application form to explain the details of your business and project. We use Section 8 to get more information on some of your entries in the application appendix. Remember to read and complete the declaration and signature section before you submit your application. You should also fill in the agent authorization section if you have used an agent to help you complete your application. Use 8.1.1 to explain the figures you have entered in the project inputs and outputs table at item question 3 of the Productivity Details tab of the appendix. For example, there may be manufacturer evidence to explain your figures for reducing agrochemical usage. At 8.1.2, we ask that if you are applying for other autonomous robotic technology, will it deliver any other outcomes not listed in the table at item question 3 of the Productivity Details tab? In the free text box shown, use around 200 words to explain what the additional input and output is. It's important to reduce the environmental impact of funded projects. So at 8.1.3, we ask if any of your requested equipment will be powered by fossil fuels. If it is, you should tell us why you haven't considered alternative power sources. For example, were alternative models not available, not suitable for what you wanted, or too expensive? At 8.1.4, we ask if your project will use data analytics to improve business productivity. Select an answer from the following drop-down options. Yes, we have the technology already. Yes, we'll buy the technology as part of the project. No, we will not use any data analytics. If you answer yes, tell us how you will collect the data and use it to monitor and report on the project inputs and outputs detailed in the table at item question 3 in the Productivity Details tab. Describe what technology you will use or buy and how it suits your business and the proposed activity. Send any documents or evidence to support your answer with your full application. If you answer no, please explain why you will not use data analysis technology, as data monitoring and reporting will be an important part of your project if your grant application is successful. We need to understand how the proposed project will impact financially on your business and how your business will manage this. Before completing question 8.2, you will need to fill in the Financial Impact tab of the Appendix spreadsheet to show the expected project costs and income. You will need to explain the forecasts and key assumptions behind your Appendix entries, considering what additional costs or savings the project may produce and where any forecast post-project additional income will come from. Projects need to be managed within design, budget and timescale limits to be successfully delivered. At 8.3, you can tell us how you will manage your project and deal with issues that occur during your project delivery. The table lists the potential risks that could impact the successful delivery of your project. Risks are defined as events that are likely or potentially possible and include delays or difficulties with suppliers, contractors, labour or materials, installation and commissioning delays, delays or changes to project funding, unforeseen additional costs, lack of expertise in the business to deliver the project, changes to the team managing the project and grant. Complete columns A and B with entries of high, medium or low to show the chance of each risk occurring and the likely impact level should it happen. Then you should explain what mitigation you have in place, what you would do if it did occur, and the steps you would take to continue the project. You should also tell us about the project team managing your project delivery. Who are the people in the team? Who will be responsible for delivering the project, the grant, and the post-project business activity? What are their current roles in your business? How much project delivery experience they have, or whether you are bringing in outside expertise. We will not support projects with a significant financial risk to the business or have significant delivery risks and a lack of planned mitigation actions. The application appendix is a spreadsheet collecting a variety of facts and figures about your project. Some answers have drop-down options for you to select from. In others, you need to type your answers. Use the guidance to help. Some information will automatically populate other tabs, so we advise you to complete the tabs in the order in which they are set out. When you have filled in each tab, check through the information for correctness and accuracy. For example, check that you haven't missed a zero off the end of one of your costs. Check that your claim dates match your milestones targets. The information you enter in the application appendix should be identical to the information in your application form. The first tab on the application appendix is the Productivity Details tab. Fill in your business name, project name, and DORA project reference number at the top. These should be the same as the front of your invitation and full application document. There are also details about the improving farm productivity equipment you want grant funding for, so you should select from the drop-down list as shown here. Then there are questions about the requested equipment, whether your business has used this equipment before, which agricultural sector it will be used in, and how it will be powered. Renewable sources are prioritised over fossil fuels. The first drop-down menu also includes an Other option to request equipment not shown on the list. See the guidance for details of specific information you need to type in here. For slurry mild acidification projects only, choose any additional slurry application equipment you wish to apply for from the drop-down choices. For each item of equipment you would like to purchase with grant funding, you will need to provide details about why you need it and how you are currently undertaking that activity on your farm. For example, buying a robotic weeder will remove weeds between growing plants which would otherwise be done manually. This will reduce labour requirements using an imaging system to identify weeds and a mechanical hoe. Currently, the weeding is undertaken in part by chemical spraying and manual weeding using seasonal labour where selective herbicide treatment is not possible. This information will help us understand the benefits of the grant funding to your business. The tab finishes with two more tables showing how the project will impact on your business, showing both existing and future forecast volumes and outcomes across a list of potential inputs and outputs, such as labour, power, fertiliser, feed, and yields. The information you enter needs to relate to the equipment and associated activity only and not your whole business operation. In the first table, use the Calculations and Assumptions Used column to explain the changes shown in the existing and future columns. If you want to further explain any of the information you have entered in the table, please use question 8.1.1 in the full application form. You only need to fill in the second table if you are applying for advanced ventilation control systems or slurry mild acidification equipment, confirming the number of livestock places the project will accommodate with existing and future numbers in the table provided. There is also a box for you to tell us what percentage of ammonia reduction is forecast from the equipment. Tab A is a summary of the financial impact of your project in an average year once the project is up and running and operational. The four sections are costs saved, additional income, additional costs, income lost. Enter the value in pounds against each heading to show the income or cost to the business as a result of the project. Each section's subtotal will be totaled at the bottom of the table, showing whether there will be a positive financial impact to the business. Tabs B and C offer the costs, suppliers, quotes, and claims for your project. In Tab B, the first table at the top is for the items of expenditure that you wish to include in your grant application. Use separate lines for each item. The quotes you have collected for each item should include the supplier name, quoted amount inclusive and exclusive of VAT, supplier's VAT registration number if they are VAT registered, company's house registration number if they are a limited company. Please provide these details for your preferred, second and third supplier for each item listed as shown along the line of the table. The image at the top of this slide shows you the whole table and all the cells that you need to fill in. The image in the middle is a snapshot of the same table to show an example of how the completed table will look. The table at the bottom of the tab and shown at the bottom of the slide is for you to tell us about any costs and items that are needed for your project but are not included in your grant application. For example, equipment that is not eligible under the scheme but is part of your wider project, such as weighing platforms and milk buffer tanks for voluntary robotic milking projects. Make sure you have completed Tab B before Tab C. When you have filled in Tab B, you'll see that some of the information you have entered will populate Tab C, so you don't need to enter it again. At the top of Tab C, choose Yes or No to indicate whether you are including VAT in your grant request. Most applicants will select No. Tell us what intervention rate percentage you want for your grant, up to a maximum of 40% in the grant rate column. Do not enter a percentage sign. You must use the same rate for all rows. Where applying for additional FETF items for slurry mild acidification projects, select the item you are applying for from the drop-down list in the FETF item table. Then enter the number of items you are applying for to calculate the grant. Once you have entered the total number of items, the total grant amount requested will be shown. Then fill in the table on the right-hand side of tab C as shown in the slide. This is for your claims. Decide when you want to make your grant claim. Think about when you will have incurred the cost and paid the invoice in full so you can prepare and submit your grant claim. You'll need to allow time to complete these steps before you make your claim. You can make up to 3 claims during your project or 1 claim at the end. Enter the dates you would like to make your claim and we will check them as part of our assessment of your application. Then allocate your requested project expenditure between the claims you have selected. The grant column will be automatically populated. You are aiming for the column on the right to have zeros all the way down. your requested expenditure has been assigned to a claim. If you have not allocated all the expenditure, the remaining unallocated amount will appear in the column on the right. The total expenditure and claim amount for each claim will appear in a total box at the bottom of the table. This includes a figure showing the percentage of the total expenditure allocated to each claim. The final claim must be for 15% or more of the project expenditure. If your final claim total is below 15%, you will need to adjust the figures. Once you have filled in the tables, look at the bottom of the page. There are helpful summary tables here which give you an overview of the project funding package and the claims you have selected. You do not need to fill anything in here. The tables are automatically populated from the information you have entered above. Errors will be highlighted in red. Check the entries in these tables to make sure they're what you are expecting. If not, you'll need to update the tables above and/or the project costs in tab B. Use the information from these tables to fill section 5 in the application form. Tab D includes a table to tell us about the milestones for your project delivery. These could include ordering, installation and testing of equipment, recruitment of new employees, when the project delivery is complete and the new facility is operational, any other identifiable stages or outputs involved in your project delivery. List additional outputs or targets not listed on Tab E Outputs that you will achieve following the project and that you will use to assess the success of your project. Tell us the dates you will achieve each milestone. Make sure that these dates match the dates and targets you enter in other tabs and the application form. The final tab, E, has a table for expected project outputs. This table draws across from the Productivity Details tab and auto-fills for you if you are proposing to purchase any equipment that will be new to your business. An important aim of the fund is more use of data collected by equipment for decision-making purposes. If your grant application is successful, we will provide more guidance on data monitoring and reporting with your grant funding agreement based on the inputs and outputs you have declared. Remember that your project will be assessed against others and only the strongest applications will receive funding. Some important reminders. Please do not start your project until you receive confirmation that RPA has approved your project and you have a grant funding agreement. Do not start work, incur costs, including paying deposits, enter into any legal contracts, or place an order before the project start date in your grant funding agreement. This could make your project ineligible. You can only submit claims once you have made a payment, and this can be evidenced by bank statements. You should consider your cash flow so that you are able to fund the project while waiting for the grant payment. We are likely to visit all projects at least once, so you need to keep your records, evidence, and maintain an asset register for 5 years from the final grant payment. We'll also ask you to submit project monitoring reports. Make sure that you are registered on the RPA's Rural Payments Service and that your information is up to date and correct. You will need to enter your single business identifier number, SBI, on your application form. You must also have the required permissions on Rural Payments to make and submit the application. The details on Rural Payments must match exactly with the information in your application. Answer all the questions and complete the forms as fully as you can, telling us all about your business and your project. Use the guidance to help you. Get someone not connected with the project to read the application to help make sure you have explained things clearly. When you are ready to submit your application, send your application form, application appendix, and all your supporting documents to us as email attachments. All the contact details are in the email we have sent to you. If you have to send more than one email, make sure they are numbered. For example, email 1 of 3. Please refer to the Farming Transformation Fund How to Apply for an Improving Farm Productivity Grant Manual for more information about how to submit your application. We have covered a lot of detailed information. Please remember that everything we have said is in the Farming Transformation Fund Improving Farm Productivity Grant Manual and the How to Apply for an Improving Farm Productivity Grant Manual. Both documents are available on gov.uk. Thank you for watching, and we hope this will help you with your Farming Transformation Fund Improving Farm Productivity grant application.